Did you know that narcissistic abuse survivors often develop unusual communication patterns as a result of their experiences? Constant manipulation, criticism, and control leave them second-guessing their words and filtering everything they say to avoid conflict. This may lead them to hesitate, overthink, or even stay silent behaviors that might seem odd to others but serve as self-protection. In this article, we'll explore these unique patterns, the reasons behind them, and how survivors can begin to restore more open, confident ways of communicating. Are you ready for number 1? Apologizing excessively. Narcissistic abuse survivors often feel like they're always at fault, leading to weird communication patterns like over-apologizing for things that aren't their fault. This behavior stems from the victim-blaming tactics of narcissists, which condition survivors to take the blame as a way to avoid conflict and maintain peace. Clinical psychologist Dr. Romani Dovasola explains that this habit can become a survival tactic that ultimately harms self-worth. To combat this, pause before saying, "I'm sorry," and ask yourself if you're truly responsible. Remember, you don't need to apologize to keep the peace. Let's talk about number 2, hyperventilating when over-explaining. Have you experienced explaining yourself and suddenly you feel like you can't catch your breath? That's hyperventilating, and it can be pretty common for people who've survived narcissistic abuse. You might feel this pressure to be clear, to defend yourself, or to make sure you're understood. You are probably ignored, belittled, or constantly doubted by the narcissist. Survivors often over-explain because they've been conditioned to think no one would believe them. Your body reacts as if every conversation is a life-or-death debate, and suddenly your nervous system is in overdrive. Take note of this. Practice taking slow, deep breaths. Remind yourself that you don't need to justify every detail and trust that your words are enough without over-explaining. Let's move on to number 3. Stumbling over their words when sharing their experiences. Sharing our sensitive experiences with others can be too much to process sometimes, right? If you've survived narcissistic abuse, you tend to stutter when sharing your life story. Your mind gets stuck, even if you know what you want to say. Dr. Judith Herman, a trauma expert, explains that trauma survivors often have a disrupted sense of self because they've been silenced or criticized so much that they second-guess every detail of their story. Narcissistic abuse teaches you to doubt your reality. So, when you finally get a chance to speak freely, your brain is still on guard, as if it expects backlash. To overcome this, try to speak slowly. Focus on grounding yourself in the present and remind yourself that your story is valid and doesn't need to be perfect. Now let's continue to number 4, tone checking. Do you know someone who almost constantly shifts the tone of their voice from cheerful to plain within minutes or seconds of interval? Narcissistic abuse survivors might continually do tone checking, like asking people if they're upset. This comes from being on edge due to the narcissist's unpredictable mood swings. You've learned to be hyper-aware of even the slightest change in someone's tone, because with the narcissist, even a tiny shift could mean a storm is coming. Survivors often develop this sensitivity because they've had to walk on eggshells, always bracing for the next emotional outburst. Listen closely. Remind yourself that others' moods are not your responsibility, and practice focusing on the overall conversation rather than searching for subtle shifts in tone. You shouldn't miss number 5, keeping a neutral facial expression at social gatherings. Victims of narcissistic abuse used to wear their emotions on their sleeves, and narcissists took advantage of their vulnerability. As a survivor of narcissistic abuse, you might find yourself putting on a poker face in social situations. This reaction often comes from years of learning to hide your feelings to avoid judgment or manipulation. Survivors learn to play it safe by not showing too much, as they're used to their emotions being used against them. You're protecting yourself by keeping a blank expression, It's a way to stay in control and avoid giving away any feelings that might make you feel vulnerable. Practice allowing yourself to express your emotions in safe spaces. Remind yourself that it's okay to be vulnerable and that genuine connections often come from sharing your true feelings.